Imagine you finally hit it. You know, you have the massive bank account you've literally always wanted. You're somehow guaranteed a 100-year lifespan. And your daily routine is just filled with, like, total uninterrupted luxury.
Sounds pretty good on paper.
Right. But now imagine waking up in that exact scenario and realizing that none of it, absolutely none of it, actually prevents you from being completely miserable.
Yeah, that is the ultimate nightmare.
It really is. And, welcome to today's deep dive, where we are looking at a text called Living Every Day with Health, Happiness, and Spiritual Awareness. And what's fascinating is that it looks at our universal blueprint for success and basically tells us our math is just fundamentally wrong.
It does. It completely tears it down.
Yeah, instead of handing out gentle platitudes, it immediately hits us with this deeply uncomfortable question about how we actually measure a successful life.
Well, it demands a complete reorientation of, what we consider valuable. Because if you ask anyone, like literally anyone, what they want out of life, you almost always get the exact same vision board.
Longevity, money, peace, right?
Exactly. Longevity, prosperity, comfort, and peace. But the text steps in and asks, okay, but if your biological hardware is failing, what does that massive bank account actually buy you?
I mean, a nicer hospital room, maybe?
Right, but not actual health. And if your mind is just constantly ruminating and generating panic, what is the point of sitting in a luxurious room? You're still trapped in your head.
Wow, yeah. So it's saying the external stuff is useless if the internal house is on fire.
Precisely. The text argues that true wealth has, absolutely nothing to do with external accumulation. It specifically defines true wealth as a healthy body, a peaceful mind, loving relationships, and an awakened consciousness.
Awakened consciousness. That's quite a checklist.
It is, and the point is, if you lack those four things, no amount of financial leverage can compensate for the deficit.
Which honestly feels like a direct challenge to the whole, modern hustle culture.
Right.
Like, we sacrifice our bodies and our relationships to acquire all this external wealth, hoping to eventually, I don't know, buy back our health and our peace later.
That's completely backward.
Exactly. So our mission today, for you listening, is to figure out how this text suggests we actually integrate those four pillars, health, peace, love, and consciousness, into our current, very chaotic lives.
And it's a practical guide. It doesn't start with some ethereal concept of spiritual nirvana.
Right. It starts at the absolute baseline, which is our physical biology.
Yeah, because you cannot meditate your way out of profound physical neglect.
True.
You just can't. The text views the physical body as the indispensable prerequisite for any higher level human experience.
I do want to push back a little here, though. I mean, the text talks about eating balanced food, staying hydrated, getting daily exercise. And if you're listening to this right now, you already know you're supposed to eat vegetables and drink water.
Right. We all know that.
So why does a profound philosophical text spend so much time telling us things we literally learned in grade school health class?
That's a fair question. It's because knowing the information and actually understanding its existential weight are two completely different things.
Okay, say more about that.
Well, we tend to view our bodies as, tools for productivity. We push the machine until it breaks, assuming we can just patch it up with medicine later. But the text frames the body not as a tool, but as the isolated, completely irreplaceable vessel of your entire conscious experience.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, think of it less like a car you drive and more like the actual physical hardware of a smartphone.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. If the motherboard is overheating and the battery is shot, it really doesn't matter how incredible the software apps are. The phone is just going to crash.
That makes a ton of sense. And, one of the maintenance protocols it mentions for this hardware really caught my attention. It was the part about maintaining a connection with nature.
Yes, a crucial point.
Because it frames time in nature not as this, recreational luxury for a Sunday afternoon, but as a mandatory biological requirement.
There is a very specific scientific mechanism behind that, actually, because we evolved in natural environments, right? Not in fluorescent lit cubicles.
That's why not.
So when we step into nature, our brains process something called fractal geometry.
Fractal geometry, like repeating patterns.
Exactly. The repeating patterns found in tree branches, leaves, coastlines, that sort of thing. Human vision is biologically hardwired to process these natural fractals effortlessly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and doing so actually reduces the cognitive load on our brain. That physical grounding, combined with the visual input, it signals to our nervous system that we are in a habitat we understand.
So it literally calms us down physically.
Yes, it physically lowers cortisol levels in our bloodstream.
So it's not just, go outside because it's pretty out. It's an actual literal neurochemical reset. That is wild. But even more than nature, I was actually stopped in my tracks by the section on sleep because it so directly contradicts our whole modern grind culture mindset.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you're listening to this, chances are you've cut into your sleep to finish an email, prep for a meeting, or just, revenge procrastinate by watching one more episode of a show.
We all do it.
We do. We treat sleep like a tax, like this annoying mandatory shutdown sequence that just gets in the way of us doing things.
And the text insists that viewing sleep as an interruption, or even merely as resting, is just a catastrophic misunderstanding of human biology.
A catastrophic misunderstanding. That's a strong phrase.
It is, because sleep is an active, aggressive state of construction. It's not passive. When you enter deep sleep, a biological mechanism called the glymphatic system actually kicks in.
The glymphatic system.
Yeah, the cells in your brain literally shrink slightly.
Right, really? They shrink.
They do. They shrink to allow cerebrospinal fluid to rush through and wash away all the metabolic waste things like amyloid beta proteins that have been accumulating throughout your waking hours.
Man, it's like the streets of a major city. During the day, it's all traffic and commerce. But at 3 a.m., the street sweepers and the garbage trucks come out.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
And if you don't let them do their job, the city becomes unlivable very quickly.
Precisely. You are not just doing nothing when you sleep. You are employing a night shift crew to repair the cellular damage of the day and, prune your neural synapses so you can actually learn and regulate your emotions tomorrow.
So sleep is preparation, not just recovery.
Exactly. The text outlines strict rules here. Sleeping on time, waking on time, and ensuring deep, sufficient sleep. Because when you understand the physiological mechanism, going to bed on time transforms.
It stops feeling like you're giving up on the day.
Right. It transforms from a surrender to productivity into an act of intense strategic self-care. It is the active construction of your future self.
Okay, so let's say we follow the blueprint. We're hydrating. We're exposing our retinas to fractal patterns in the woods. Our glymphatic system has washed our brain completely clean, and our hardware is fully optimized.
Sounds idyllic.
It does. But why do we still snap at our families? Like, why does the internal system still overheat the second we face a difficult conversation?
Because, simply put, optimized hardware doesn't prevent software glitches.
Ah, okay. The apps are malfunction.
Right. We are fundamentally social creatures, and the text argues that experiencing love makes us far, far happier than any material acquisition. But of course, relationships introduce immense friction.
They really do. People are complicated.
They are. And this brings us to the emotional fuel of our journey. The text emphasizes family, maintaining friendships, and respecting others. But it introduces one absolute necessity to keep this emotional engine running.
And that is?
The practice of forgiveness.
Oh, man. Forgiveness. Forgiveness usually sounds so preachy to me. It's often framed as taking the moral high ground, which, that can feel really frustrating when you've genuinely been wronged by someone.
It can feel completely invalidating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How does the text reframe that so it doesn't just feel like we're sweeping things under the rug?
It completely removes the morality from it and frames it as pure practicality.
Practicality.
Yeah. Think about our smartphone analogy from earlier. Holding a grudge, harboring resentment, obsessing over how someone wronged you, that is the exact equivalent of leaving 20 heavy, complex apps running in the background of your phone.
Oh, wow. I love that.
You aren't actively using them, but they are secretly draining your battery, they're consuming all your processing power, and causing the entire device to run hot.
And you don't close the apps as a favor to the software developer. You close them to get your own phone's battery life back.
Exactly that. Forgiveness is not about validating the other person's bad behavior. It is purely about reclaiming your own internal bandwidth.
That is such a powerful shift in perspective.
You drop the resentment so you have the energy to deal with the inevitable problems that are actually in front of you today.
Which is a crucial pivot, really, because the text offers a very stark reality check about the nature of those daily problems. It has an incredibly realistic take on stress.
Doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't promise that if you just drink green juice and forgive your neighbor, your life will magically become a frictionless breeze. It states unequivocally that everyone has problems, and you literally cannot outrun them.
Right, and the shift in perspective the text demands here is huge. The question isn't whether we have problems, because we all do, but rather how we look at them.
How we frame them.
Exactly.
Okay.
You cannot control the external stressor, but you have absolute control over the cognitive lens through which you view it.
I really, really appreciate that approach because the alternative is what we see all over social media right now, that whole toxic positivity thing.
Oh, the good vibes only mindset.
Yes. The culture that tells you to just smile through the pain, it feels so dismissive. But the text actually validates the struggle.
Because toxic positivity demands you pretend the threat doesn't exist. This text asks you to change how your nervous system appraises the threat.
How so? Like biologically.
Yeah, in psychology, there is a concept known as cognitive appraisal. When a stressor hits, say, a sudden financial loss or a major conflict at work, if you view it as a catastrophic permanent threat to your survival, your amygdala just hijacks your brain.
And you go into full panic mode.
You flood with adrenaline, your heart rate spikes, and your logical reasoning shuts down completely.
Your body literally thinks you are being chased by a predator, even though you're literally just sitting at a desk looking at an angry email.
Exactly. But if you shift the lens, as the text suggests, through tools like meditation, prayer, or just actively living in the present moment, you change the appraisal from a threat to a challenge.
Or at least to something temporary.
Right. And when you do that, you recruit your prefrontal cortex. You hit the brakes on the panic response.
So the problem is still there. You haven't magically wished it away, like with toxic positivity.
Right. But your biological reaction to it has completely transformed. You retain your peace.
Okay, this raises a really big question for me, though. Why is all this so urgent?
What do you mean?
Like, why can't I just, figure out my cognitive appraisal and my relationship friction in my 50s or 60s once I've secured the bag and built that massive bank account we talked about?
Well, this is where the text forces us to confront the most unignorable spiritual reality of human existence. And it really does not mince words here.
No, it definitely does not.
It focuses heavily on the impermanence of life. We simply do not have the luxury of waiting to optimize our consciousness because our time is strictly limited and our internal experience is entirely solitary.
Yeah, that section of the text genuinely gave me pause. It lays out the reality of death with startling bluntness.
It reminds us that one day we will all leave this world, and the text points out the sequence of events so plainly.
Walk us through what it says.
It says the news of your passing will spread. Your family, your friends, and your neighbors will know. They will grieve profoundly. But then it states this chilling truth. After a few days, a few months, or a few years, life will move on at its own unyielding pace.
Yeah, there's that one line that really stuck with me. Survivors survive. The departed become memories.
It's incredibly heavy.
Survivors survive. The departed become memories. That is, it's almost unsettling to read in a text about health and happiness.
It is unsettling, but it is necessary to shatter our ego.
Why, though? Why include this blunt reminder of death?
Because internalizing this natural law strips away all the superficial anxieties that consume our days. Think about it. When you truly deeply comprehend that the world will keep turning without you, that the email you are stressing over at midnight will eventually mean absolutely nothing, the petty grievances just lose their grip.
That makes sense. It just immediately trivializes the small stuff. And it connects to an even heavier point it makes about the isolation of personal suffering.
Yes, the isolation of suffering is a profound realization. The text highlights that your sorrow, your disease, your physical pain, and your mental worry are experienced only by you.
You are the sole inhabitant of your consciousness.
Awfully.
I have to admit, I had a real moment of friction with this concept when I was reading.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, let's say I have a terrible migraine, or I'm going through intense grief. My friends can be there for me,
Yeah.
right? They can bring me food, sit with me, surround me with empathy and support.
Of course they can.
But what the text is saying is that fundamentally, they cannot actually feel the throbbing in my head or the literal ache in my chest.
Right. The actual sensation of suffering, what the text calls bearing the fruits of karma, must ultimately be borne alone.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
No one can step inside your nervous system and just take the pain away.
And initially, that felt incredibly dark to me. Just the idea that we are trapped in our own isolated experience of pain.
Yeah.
But the more I sat with it, I realized it's actually the ultimate call to radical self-responsibility.
Yes.
Because if no one else can step in and take the actual feeling away from you, then things like self-knowledge, meditation, and emotional regulation aren't just trendy self-care buzzwords.
They are absolute survival skills.
Exactly.
That is the pivotal breakthrough here. The text doesn't point out your isolation to induce despair. It points it out to induce absolute self-reliance.
It's like you're the boss of your own brain.
If you are the only administrator of your internal system, you had better make sure it is a well-managed, healthy place to reside. You simply cannot outsource your peace of mind to a partner, a boss, or a bank account.
Which leads us perfectly into the resolution of all this. If the hardware is temporary, if the suffering is solitary, and the external world is just going to keep spinning regardless of what we do, how do we code the software to ensure we aren't totally miserable while we're here?
The text offers its ultimate answer, and it requires a complete paradigm shift. The solution is never external.
Never external.
Never. You will never find lasting peace in money or status, because those external factors cannot penetrate your internal reality to actually fix your pain.
So what do we do?
Life only becomes noticeably easier and more meaningful when we commit to 4 specific internal actions.
Okay, let's hear them.
Truly knowing ourselves,
Yeah.
accepting the present moment, practicing daily gratitude, and harboring a feeling of service and love.
I want to dig into that third one, actually, gratitude. Because it's another one of those concepts that gets thrown around so casually, like, keeping a cute journal on your nightstand.
Right, it gets commodified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how does it actually change the internal experience from a physiological standpoint?
It comes back to neuroplasticity. The human brain has a built-in negativity bias. We literally evolved to constantly scan our environment for threats in order to survive.
Because missing a threat meant you got eaten by a tiger.
Exactly. So left to its own devices, your brain will automatically fixate on what is wrong, what is missing, and what could hurt you.
Which explains a lot of my anxiety, to be honest.
Right. So gratitude isn't about just being polite or nice. It is a forced, active rewiring of your neural pathways.
Oh, wow.
By consciously scanning your environment for things that are good, you strengthen different neural circuits. Over time, you literally train your brain to default to a state of abundance rather than a state of panic.
That makes it sound like a workout for your brain, rather than just a nice thought.
Huh.
And what about the fourth pillar, service to others? Because if we are so solitary in our experience, like we just talked about, why is service one of the 4 pillars?
Because service and love forcibly break us out of the ego loop.
The ego loop.
Yeah, when we are suffering, our brains often get trapped in a network called the default mode network, which is highly active during self-referential thought and rumination. We just spin in our own pain.
Just obsessing over our own problems.
Right, but when you focus on helping someone else, you shift brain states. You step outside of your own isolated suffering to alleviate someone else's, which paradoxically reduces the intensity of your own internal friction.
That is so interesting. Helping others actually heals you.
It does. When these 4 internal conditions are met, self-awareness, presence, gratitude, and service external chaos simply loses its power to destroy your peace.
It becomes the ultimate internal fortress.
Yes.
Which brings us all the way back to that universal wish list we talked about at the very beginning of the deep dive. The 100-year lifespan, the endless wealth, the absolute luxury.
The text completely dismantles that as a valid objective. The goal of life is not simply longevity. It isn't just trying to drag your physical hardware across the 100-year finish line while carrying as much gold as possible.
Right, because a century lived in a state of high cortisol, resentment, and constant desire for more is really just 100 years of suffering.
Exactly. The true goal is to live healthily, lovingly, consciously, and with a peaceful mind. It's about shifting from the idea that we are somehow entitled to longevity to accepting every single day as an actual gift. To briefly recap the core realization we've uncovered today, the text invites us to make a profound shift from external validation to internal wealth.
And that internal wealth is so much more practical than it sounds at first.
It is. It consists of a healthy physical body maintained through biological respect, a calm mind managed through cognitive awareness, loving relationships fueled by the practicality of forgiveness, and an awakened consciousness that accepts the reality of our temporary, solitary existence.
It's a roadmap that completely changes the definition of success.
Huh.
And, as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over, building on what we discussed about impermanence.
It's a crucial takeaway.
It really is. The text tells us, quite bluntly, that our pain is ours alone to bear, and that after we are gone, the world will quickly go back to turning without us. Survivors survive, and we become memories.
Which is hard to hear.
It is. But while that might feel isolating or scary at first, I want you to consider the flip side of that equation. If no one else can truly feel your sorrow, then no one else can truly feel your joy either. Your capacity for happiness is entirely yours to manufacture. No one can confiscate the actual feeling of peace from inside your consciousness. And if the world isn't going to stop for your ultimate absence, well, doesn't that free you to stop worrying about the world's expectations today?
It's immensely freeing.
It gives you permission to finally just live in the present moment for yourself. Take that thought with you into the rest of your day.